So today we're going to talk about stoves, and in particular smaller camping stoves that you would take on either a backpacking trip or just maybe a one-night overnighter if you're car camping. Typically when you're car camping you're going to use something more like a conventional Coleman 2-burner propane stove, and that's usually our go-to when we're going to be any sort of prolonged camping. It's just a little bit easier to use, pretty foolproof in its operation. It has the 2 burners, which makes it very convenient. It's very stable, has wind protection. So for most applications, that's going to be the stove you're going to want to use for normal car camping.
But if you want to travel light and you want to pare down your kit and you know you're going to be doing simplistic cooking or maybe just boiling water for coffee and freeze-dried meals, then these small camp stove alternatives are an excellent option. Not only for their small footprint and light weight, but also for their ease of use when you're out camping off-grid. The mini alcohol stove is a wonderful stove when you want a simple, lightweight, and reliable camp stove. Alcohol stoves are incredibly reliable and will work at all temperatures, meaning you don't have to worry about them not working when you're at altitude or in sub-freezing conditions. For this kind of stove, you can use many different kinds of liquid fuel, such as denatured alcohol, clean-burning denatured alcohol, or 99% isopropyl alcohol. The fuel I use is heat in the yellow bottle, which is actually a fuel line antifreeze made of methanol. This aluminum alcohol stove costs around $16 on Amazon. It weighs 145 grams or 5.1 ounces and comes with a screw top with a rubber O-ring, so you can screw this on even if you have not used all your fuel. Some alcohol stoves don't come with a watertight top, so you will have to either burn all the fuel you poured in or place it back in a container when you're finished. So having this O-ring screw top is a nice feature. It also comes with a simmer cap, which can be used to put out the flame, or you can use the slider to adjust the intensity of the flame on your pot. There are some downsides to alcohol stoves. For starters, it can be nearly impossible to see the flame sometimes, especially if you're burning a clean fuel source. The flame is silent and can be practically invisible in some conditions, like it is here, and you may not be certain if the stove is lit, so you might need to carefully use your hand to feel if heat is coming off the stove to know it's working. You also need to give it time for the flame to spread out to the smaller holes on the outside of the ring. Once it does that, it is fully operational. Another thing to be careful of is to avoid knocking the stove over. If you tip it over, the fuel can spill out and cause a large fire either in your tent or at your campsite. So you will want to be a little more careful around this kind of stove. Also, these stoves are slow, and they will burn a lot of fuel for even simple cooking tasks. So if you're in a hurry to boil water for coffee, you may want to go with an isobutane stove instead. But don't let the downsides deter you. You can find fuel for these stoves in nearly any grocery market or gas station worldwide, and it's relatively inexpensive. Also, there are no mechanical parts that can break or fail, making it one of the most reliable stoves you can buy. So as long as you have fuel and a way to light the fire, you are off and running. The BRS 3000T is an ultralight backpacking stove made of titanium. It is unbelievably light, as it weighs just 26 grams or 0.9 ounces. It is also extremely affordable, costing around $16. This ultralight stove is the stove of choice for many backpackers where size and weight is more important than boiling times, stability, and fuel efficiency. It comes in a tiny carrying case which is bright green for excellent visibility when looking for it in your backpack or seeing if you dropped it on the ground. The BRS stove is extremely small in your hands. It also operates just like any other isobutane stove by screwing it onto an isobutane canister and adjusting the fuel with the control valve on the side. Once screwed on the canister, just turn the control valve and then light it over the top of the pot supports. Once lit, it is extremely easy to use, and you can use the control valve to monitor the amount of fuel you're using from the canister. However, you don't have a lot of finite control with the control valve, which makes it more difficult to control a simmer. It also does not have a built-in fuel regulator like the MSR PocketRocket Deluxe, which makes it less efficient at colder temperatures. The BRS Ultralight stove is an awesome little stove, and I actually bought one of these for my oldest daughter to use on her camping adventures, so I highly recommend it. The MSR PocketRocket Deluxe is also considered an ultralight camping and backpacking stove. It weighs in at 82 grams or 2.9 ounces. This is a very light stove, but considerably heavier than the BRS stove. It comes with a thick carrying pouch, which is very nice. The pot supports fold out much like the BRS stove, but the MSR PocketRocket supports are longer and sturdier, which gives you more surface area for your pots and pans. The PocketRocket Deluxe has a built-in piezo push-start spark igniter that works extremely well and has yet to fail on me. This is a fantastic feature, making it very convenient to ignite, giving me one less thing to have to worry about. And unlike the BRS stove, the MSR PocketRocket Deluxe does have a pressure regulator, which allows the stove to have a consistent flame even at much colder temperatures. The control valve allows for better flame control, which allows you to control a simmer. This was the first backpacking stove I purchased years ago and remains my go-to small stove of choice for small, simple cooking and camping applications. The Redcamp wood-burning stove is the largest of the stoves here, and although it is very small for a wood stove, it appears gigantic compared to the rest in this comparison. It's also the heaviest by far, weighing 1.9 pounds or 30.4 ounces. However, being the largest also means it has the largest footprint, which allows you to use much larger pots and pans and is by far the most stable. It comes with a zippered carrying bag that holds the entire stove kit, which is nice because this stove will get covered in soot after each use. The wood stove is made of 430 stainless steel, and the grid backing plate is made of 304 stainless steel, which allows for a stable cooking platform. The great thing about this stove is you can use various types of fuel, such as leaves, twigs, and larger pieces of firewood. However, it can be a bit finicky to set up, and it's not quite as clean or seamless to use as some of the other stoves, but once set up, it's reliable and fun to operate. It can also be used as a source of heat, and this stove provided some much needed warmth during my solo snow camping trip back in October of 2020. Being made of stainless steel means it takes a while to cool down, so be cautious of that when you're breaking down your stove. Give it ample time to cool off before packing it away. And like any other wood-burning stove, you will have ash and coals to dispose of after using your stove. So there is extra cleanup and maintenance needed for this type of stove. But the beauty of a small twig stove is you potentially have free fuel at your disposal, and you don't necessarily need an axe or a knife in order to get small twigs and burnable debris to use this stove. You can simply forage your camp for easy sticks and branches to break and feed into the stove, which in my opinion makes this the most fun stove to operate of all the stoves here. So now let's get into the water boiling test. And keep in mind, these tests have a lot of variables, so these boil times will vary greatly depending on your individual weather and temperature conditions.
Okay, so our boiling test is complete, and some actual surprising results from this. Taking the longest to bring water to a rolling boil was the alcohol stove, which was to be expected. That took 13 minutes 6 seconds. Next was actually the BRS stove, which took 4 minutes 30 seconds to bring water to a rolling boil. Next was actually the wood stove, which was a little surprising to me, and that took 3 minutes 59 seconds, just under 4 minutes. It should be noted that you have to constantly tend to the fire and feed the wood and manipulate the wood in order for it to keep the heat and the flame up. And then the winner was the MSR PocketRocket, which took 3 minutes 33 seconds to get water to a boil. So some results were not surprising, some were. I didn't expect the wood stove to be as quick as it was, but that was really great. For the test, I used water that was the same temperature. I used a titanium pot that cooled down very quickly between tests, so I made sure it was all the way cooled down before I reapplied water and ran the test for the next stove. So very good results. As you can see, each stove has its pros and cons. One of the interesting things about the wood stove is that because it's stainless steel, it takes a very long time to cool down. The next wood stove I purchase will be a titanium stove because I just like how fast they cool down after they're no longer in use. The weight's great, but I really just like the fact that they cool down so much quicker. It's a really nice feature. So which one is my favorite? I don't actually have a favorite. The one I use the most would be a isobutane stove. I currently use the PocketRocket the most. It just seems to be the most convenient for me, but I love them all for different reasons. I like the simplicity of the alcohol stove. I like that the fuel is so inexpensive. I like the ease of use of the isobutane stoves and how quickly they work. But I like the manualness of the wood stove. I like feeding wood in the fire. I love fire in general, and so it's just fun to tend to the fire and keep it going and feed fuel into it. And so I like the manual part of it. I like the hands-on approach to it. So if I have the time to dedicate to, foraging for wood and getting sticks and twigs, I really enjoy using this. It's just a fun stove to use. So I like them all. Each one has their pros and cons, but there are some definite reasons why you would choose some stoves over another. So this was just a quick comparison of these stoves, the different types and the different sizes and the different performances of these small portable camping and backpacking stoves. There's a lot of details I didn't cover, so if you have any questions, please ask them in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to try to provide any answers. All of these stoves have a place. I love all of them. Some work better for other applications than others. So if you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll catch you on the next one.